Welcome, friends. You're watching Ruslan Belov's channel, where we break down the military and political situation without unnecessary emotions, without propaganda, and without filler. Facts only, analysis only, what actually matters. Before we begin, a quick request. If you watch us regularly and value this format, please hit the bell and subscribe if you haven't done so already. YouTube is actively suppressing military analytical content like ours. Algorithms cut reach, videos get restricted. Your subscription and notifications are a direct way to support the channel and make sure you never miss an episode. It takes literally 5 seconds, but it means the world to us. I also want to give a special thank you to our channel sponsors and everyone who supported us through Super Thanks. It genuinely helps grow the project, lets us publish more frequently, and keeps the quality high. Every contribution, every donation is an investment in independent analysis. Thank you enormously, you know who you are. And now, let's get to it. April 28, 2026 was a packed day. The front line is very much alive. Several directions are showing significant movement. And on the global stage, there are two developments capable of reshaping not only the Ukrainian conflict, but the situation across the Middle East. Let's go through everything in order. Sumy sector, first video evidence and anticipation of a strike from the north. We start in Sumy Oblast, a sector that has been appearing in briefings with increasing frequency in recent weeks. Today, the Ukrainian side published footage from the area of the settlement of Sabotage. The recordings show forward positions of the Russian army on the southwestern and western outskirts of the village. The significance of these images is hard to overstate. Until today, Russia's Ministry of Defense had been claiming advances in this sector without any video confirmation. Now that confirmation exists, and we're not talking about a reconnaissance presence, but about fortified, entrenched positions. This changes the character of the information entirely. When all we have is an official MOD statement, that's one thing. When the opposing side itself publishes footage demonstrating the actual presence of enemy forces, that's a qualitatively different level of credibility. Meanwhile, Ukrainian sources continue to report preparations for a possible Russian offensive from the northern part of Sumy Oblast and from the northeast of Chernihiv Oblast. According to available information, the first wave is expected to involve around 200 servicemen from special reconnaissance and sabotage units. The number itself is modest. A 200-man DRG force cannot accomplish conventional operational objectives. However, such units serve a different purpose: probing defenses, creating pressure points, identifying weak spots, and first waves are almost never the last. Southeast of Sumy Oblast, Breakout near Taratutine and movement westward. Staying in Sumy Oblast, let's move south. The area around Taratutine is showing further map adjustments. Yesterday, the Northern Troops Group confirmed Russian advances in this direction. Today's data from several independent analysts add important detail. Russian units have moved beyond the settlement itself, and the advance is now developing westward, toward Khmelivka and Krasnopilia. This is a significant moment in terms of operational logic. Breaking out beyond a specific settlement and beginning to push west means this is no longer a localized tactical gain. It's an attempt to expand the bridgehead and create conditions for further offensive development. How sustainable this advance proves to be, the coming days will tell. Kharkiv sector, fighting along the Vovcha River and the threat of encirclement near Belyi Kolodiaz. The Kharkiv direction is today one of the most dynamic sectors along the entire line of contact. The heaviest fighting, according to incoming reports, is centered around Pokolyane, a settlement located along the Vovcha River, between Vovchansky Khutori and Zybina. There are indications that active combat is already taking place within the settlement itself. Simultaneously, fierce fighting is reported in the triangle of Semenivka, Losivka, Shesterivka. The key phrase here is the Velikokolodiazny direction. If Russian units manage to consolidate these positions and develop the offensive, the rear of the AFU, Armed Forces of Ukraine, grouping defending Belyi Kolodiaz, comes under direct threat. We're talking about a potential operational envelopment, a classic maneuver capable of destabilizing multiple defensive nodes at once. Separate attention is warranted for the situation in the most remote northeastern corner of Kharkiv Oblast. Here, according to the Ministry of Defense and the Northern Troops Group, the Russian side has substantially improved its positions in the Zemlyanske direction over the past 24 hours. More than that, there are reports suggesting the settlement itself may have already come under Russian control. This still requires confirmation, but the pattern is clear. Russian forces are methodically pressing along the entire length of the Vovcha River, aiming to reach Bilyi Kolodyaz, then Mali Burluk, and ultimately Veliki Burluk. Kupansk and Bova. Quiet, no changes. The Kupansk and Bova directions report no significant changes today. That doesn't mean nothing is happening there. Positional skirmishes and artillery exchanges continue as background noise. But no meaningful map corrections have been recorded. Sloviansk sector. The threat of a cauldron near Kriva Luka. The Sloviansk direction delivers perhaps the most operationally alarming episode in today's briefing. According to available information, Russian units have substantially improved their positions on the Russian bank of the Siversky Donets River. Activity in the area of Ozern was confirmed yesterday. Today comes word that at certain sections, Russian forces have reached the river itself, at minimum along the stretch between Kriva Luka and Ozern. The implications of this maneuver deserve a clear-eyed assessment. The map configuration taking shape today suggests that AFU units in the Kriva Luka area have found themselves in conditions of operational encirclement. A shrinking window remains for an organized withdrawal. If that window closes, we'll be talking about a full cauldron. The exact size of the Ukrainian forces there is unknown. But the very fact that such a configuration became possible at all speaks to enormous pressure being applied in this sector. Kostyantynivka. Sector, tunnels, envelopment, and 5 days of continuous advance. The Kostyantynivka direction is today the hottest in terms of territorial changes. Over the past 5 days, this is where the deepest and most significant map adjustments have been recorded. Look at the dynamics. The end of April 25th, the 26th, the 27th, and now the close of the 28th. Russian forces are steadily, step by step, pressing along the flanks of Dobrailia and Roskoshin. Today brings word that Russian units have improved their positions in Lenivka. The map has been adjusted based on the official MOD report, covering the southwestern and western flanks of Kostyantynivka. Dobrailia, given the current configuration, is now nearly completely cut off from resupply. Activity has simultaneously intensified in the area of Rusiniv Yar, with movement northward toward Mykolaipilia and toward Dobrailia and Roskoshin from the west. The strategic logic here is fairly apparent. Dobrailia and Roskoshin are priority targets for straightening the front line. Once taken, the path toward Osakov opens, creating conditions for enveloping Kostyantynivka from the northwest. This is a classic pincer operation executed at a slow but methodical pace. A separate note on the tunnel. Today, pro-Ukrainian sources published footage which, according to them, shows Russian units conducting underground construction in the vicinity of Kostyantynivka. Per the authors, the tunnel is being used to supply forces and move reinforcements within the urban perimeter. The geolocation of the object has not yet been confirmed. Some analysts have floated an exotic theory, a possible tunnel being dug in the direction of Kramatorsk. How realistic that is remains a very open question. But the very existence of such construction, if confirmed, would indicate a qualitatively different level of engineering preparation for a protracted urban fight. Dobrailia direction. Saboteurs on the move and a threat to the key fortified zone. The Dobrailia direction is seeing a marked intensification of Russian sabotage and reconnaissance units today. Movement is occurring along several vectors simultaneously, flanking Serhivka from the north and northeast, advancing directly toward Mirnohrad, and applying pressure on AFU positions in Belitsk. The key element of the situation here is a large Ukrainian fortified zone located south of Mirnohrad. This is not simply a cluster of villages, it is a system of strong points stretching between Krivorozhia, Svitle, and Shevchenko. This fortified zone is now facing dual pressure, a frontal wedge between it and Serhivka, and an attempted flanking maneuver from the northeast, via Chernihivka and the Belitska mine. If this maneuver is executed successfully, and the fortified zone finds itself threatened with isolation, The AFU's defensive line in this direction could degrade rapidly. This is one of those cases where a tactical success can translate into an operational result quite quickly. Zaparisia direction, Huliopole and fierce fighting near Verkhnya Tersa. The Zaparisia direction is registering small but telling map corrections today, primarily in the areas of Huliopole, Hirka and Zaliznikna. Russian forces continue their methodical advance through the space between Huliopole, Hirka and Verkhnya Tersa. The pace here is slower than at Kostyantynivka, but the movement continues. Verkhnya Tersa warrants particular attention. According to the Eastern Troops Group, this is currently the site of some of the most intense fighting along the entire southern sector of the front. Details remain limited, but the command's explicit focus on this area signals that the situation there is anything but calm. The political dimension. The Rada extends martial law until August. Let's step back from the battlefield and turn to politics, equally eventful today. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine passed, in its first reading, legislation extending martial law and mobilization for another 90-day period. The existing martial law was set to expire on May 4th, literally next week. Zelensky submitted the bills yesterday. The Rada voted quickly today. The implication is straightforward. Armed hostilities continue, legally and organizationally, at minimum until August 2026. The next vote is expected in late July. Before that deadline, the Russian side intends to press its initiative along the entire line of contact to the maximum extent possible. A summer campaign is now a certainty. There's no way around it. Mali, strategic disaster or managed retreat of the African Corps. Now, something that is receiving remarkably little coverage in Russian media, but demands serious analysis. West Africa, the Republic of Mali. The situation there has deteriorated sharply. Russian units of the African Corps have begun a strategic redeployment from the country's north and northeast toward its central regions. The immediate trigger: loss of control over key settlements in the northeast, Tessalit and Kidal. In both locations, flags of the Tuareg separatists of the Azawad movement have already been raised. What forced the African Corps to withdraw? Today, the first objective control footage appeared that answers that question directly. The video shows what appear to be FPV drone strikes against the former UN base in Kidal, positions occupied by Russian and Malian government forces. The separatists have mastered technologies that until recently were considered the preserve of conventional armies. The use of strike UAVs against a force with no adequate countermeasures is a serious tactical problem, one that forces a withdrawal decision. The African Corps and Malian government forces are now converging on the critical hub of Gao, the city through which the only bridge over the central river passes, a waterway that effectively divides the country in two. Whoever controls Gao and that bridge controls the ability to move forces between the western and eastern halves of the country. The separatists are pressing from multiple directions simultaneously, from the north, from the west of Gao, and elements are reportedly moving in Bamako itself, the capital. The cities of Timbuktu and Ras El Mar have, according to available data, passed under separatist control. The African Corps' task now is to consolidate its dispersed detachments strung out across a vast territory into a single capable strike force. The redeployment is expected to take anywhere from several days to several weeks. Once complete, a counter-offensive becomes likely. The question is whether they can complete it before the separatists close the ring around the key nodes. The situation is critical, but not hopeless. We'll keep watching. The Middle East, oil at $100 and the UAE's exit from OPEC. And finally, a global energy story that is directly connected to the military configuration on the Middle East. WTI crude oil today pushed right up against the 100 per barrel mark. This is not just a number, it is a psychological and economic threshold whose breach has historically triggered sharp political responses. Every time oil has reached this level, some dramatic event has followed that knocked prices back down to the 83-86 range. Today, that event was the announcement from the United Arab Emirates. The UAE declared it is withdrawing from both OPEC and OPEC+. The market reaction was immediate. Prices fell back to the 98 to 99 range, and it appears continue to ease. The formal logic is straightforward. Exiting the cartel removes quota obligations and frees up capacity to significantly ramp up production. The UAE is one of the world's largest producers, and markets interpreted the announcement as a signal of incoming supply growth. But the details here matter enormously. Actually exporting those additional volumes from the UAE is another matter entirely. Through Saudi territory, unlikely. Relations with Riyadh will inevitably sour after such a demonstrative departure from OPEC. Through the Strait of Hormuz, categorically impossible. The strait is de facto blocked by the mutual blockade between the United States and Iran. US carrier strike groups and amphibious assault ships are concentrated off the Iranian coast. The situation there is balanced on a knife's edge. Putin yesterday sent a clear signal to Western partners. Russia will act in the interests of Iran and regional stability in the Middle East. If oil prices cannot be stabilized through diplomatic or market-based means, Trump will be compelled to move to more decisive instruments. And that means a qualitatively different conflict, with an entirely different balance of forces. We'll be watching closely. Friends, that brings today's briefing to a close. It has been a genuinely packed day, from frontline shifts in Ukraine to strategic upheaval in Mali to the global oil game reshaping the Middle East calculus. All of it is connected. All of it is part of a great realignment unfolding in real time, right in front of us. Once again, enormous thanks to our sponsors and to everyone who supported the channel through Super Thanks. You are the reason this content gets made every single day. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now and don't forget the bell. That's the only reliable way to make sure you catch every episode. Until next time, stay safe and take care of yourselves.